by the trail of dead. It's just one more world war to complete the set. When you live by the pike, you die by the pith. You die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth, or crying divine epithets and pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. Well, I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense of faltering senses and altered events. Like hun, it ain't a hearse, it's a reaper's stretch. Ah, how sweet, she said. Bunch of hordes in the street like it's Evil Dead, where the thin blue line meets razor's edge, and where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stomps each finger and watches you fall to your death and drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder who gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections step by step till the next election, when it's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. That's harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Maybe that's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen, being guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths of much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look up at the shine of the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the Heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, and then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. And I hope all the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID for boosting their boosters and doing their part are now equally thrilled to be starstruck martyrs, all laid in a government grave with anonymous markers, like you're back from the carvers and off to the splicer. You're the very first wave to be slain in the war against Pfizer, that 100 years war against Pfizer. They are thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from those inhuman misers, who all sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profit for Kaiser. Still, the Dems want you nicer. Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. Yeah, they all want you graciously starving in silence. You will speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binders. All bled, bone dry, then fed to the grinder. Our headstones line each step as reminders. That's a lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Workers bled, bone dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. Fed by the fed to the grinder. Now the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. And the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, bleeds you dry, then dines on the dead. The Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. The Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your size unstead, and your eyes turn blind to the signs on a red flag bright red, so you let it in bed, you let it inside, you'll see it, it's fed. Never your mind, that it grinds your mind, that it grinds yourself, that it bleeds you dry, that it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led.
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Situated for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. Nancy gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid, 2 years after the grave, she'll be a little stronger for all of the dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders and think they could beat them, playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stocks and they all maintain that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. Flash forward and 40 Sunday mornings fade, 250,000 people in its wake, and the cruise ship sailed today. So motherfucker, don't shine a light in my face. Wait.
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning,
Wait.
Sunday morning.
Wait. We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Situated for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. Situated for a warning, but the warning never came. They'll gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them no, it's 'cause you are. They'll gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them no, it's 'cause you are. It's 'cause you are. They'll gladly stagnate a living wage, snap the chains, bury it. Labor slaves in rusty cages dragged behind a chariot, led by Mr. Racial Jungle, Joseph or Iscariot, fighting over scraps as they barrage us all with variants and BuzzFeed clickbait, straight until we're paralyzed, trying to distract us from the concentration camps that Joe had swore he'd close but only chose to amplify, where they got 50-something kids in cages made for 5 to occupy. And no, she hasn't seen the camps, but Harris swears they're paradise. She tells us the facilities are safe, and that right down to the women, they are regularly sterilized. Then she throws her head back and she proceeds to laugh, that sort of heartless cackle you'd expect from someone working steadfastly on behalf of the virus and a Congress full of parasites. And where was I? I was busy cashing every blue check, demonstrating plainly all the narratives expected from the verified. I was busy breeding verbal leeches by the terabyte. Train them to exsanguinate the wealthy while they sleep at night. Bleed the oil barons dry and barren. Say they showed us how to share and now we share alike. Tell them I contracted rabies from a feral mic. Now I'm just another species losing sleep to noise pollution and these glaring lights. Forced to change its habits and adapt to just survive. But now it's safe to say that some of us are thriving in the moment, throwing shit on presidential homes beneath the Paris skies. So if you feel like you're just powerless, I guess you bought the lie. But I can tell they're petrified of our collective might, 'cause I can hear those gentrifiers weeping at the sight of our collective rights. And I only can imagine the intensifying fear of knowing revolution's near, and all that's left to do is simply wallow in the thick anticipation of a rabid bite. And baby, one day you can ask your leaders just what that was like before you grab a slice. So if you think you're powerless, allow me now to change your mind. Honey, if you think you're powerless, allow me now to change your mind. See, they'll pay you hourly, tax them each apart, and build a shining tower out of loopholes and cards, and tell you that you're powerless to keep you in the dark because you aren't, because we aren't. You see, they'll pay you hourly, tax them each apart, and make you build a shining tower out of loopholes and cards, where they'll tell you that you're powerless to keep you in the dark because you aren't, because we aren't.
That's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contract's tossed and they're gone with the tide. The heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this track and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip, till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes, because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you saying shit you would never say. dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know its exanimate. 'Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5.
No, Indy left. What is happening here?
To check out IndependentLeft.news.
The Indie News Network.
Indie Left News.
Oh, hey, Indie Left.
IndependentLeft.news. Great work.
Indie Left News.
IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News. Shout out.
Oh, what's up, Independent Left?
Friend show.
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
The INN, Indy, you're wonderful.
I think Indie was onto something.
Independent News Network, Indie News.
Yeah. What's up, Indy, over on Rockfin?
Independent News Network, also known as INN.
Indie Left News.
I don't know if I would have made it through that 3 weeks without Indy, honestly.
No, I was just going to ask Indy.
A huge thank you and shout out to Indie Left.
No, you know what we're doing? We're world building, Indy.
Indie Left News.
You were doing the INN recruiting.
Indie News.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News.
Check out Independent Left News.
At Kennedy News.
I see Indy's in the chat. Hi, Indy. Okay, great. Bye.
Okay, bye. We're hot mic'd, but is this thing going to the right? Hi, what's up? Okay, now we're in the right place. I don't know. I gotta fix this thing. That's Reef.
I'm so happy I have your audio set to peak when you're loud, so it doesn't blow my eardrums.
What?
Real nice.
This thing isn't recording OBS. What's up? All right. Now we're gonna start recording OBS. All right. Bye. Yes. Well, that was cool. Yeah, I got to hang out with Sabby a couple weeks ago. That was really nice. But got to finally meet her. She's exactly who you think she is, and she's exactly the person that you see on stream. Just for anyone that hasn't met her before.
Just a little shorter than you think.
No, but she is one of these. An Indie Media Award honoree. I didn't get to like hand her hers because she's already had hers. That would have been cool to be able to like give her one in person and take the picture like standing like, hey. I've never done that. I've gotten a few pictures of people who've taken pictures of theirs, but not that yet. One of these days. Okay, now we'll turn on cable CDU so that you'll be able to hear the video later. That'll help. All right, we have. Hey, it's how did we miss that? Oh, that's right. Hi, everybody. There's a bunch of people here. Oh shit. Yes, it's not just me and Reef hanging out talking. It will be at some point, I'm sure. But right now, we've got all the INN family in the house, and I love it. We got Care Bear, Colin Radish Carter. Catch him Wednesday nights on INN News with the guy sitting next to me. That's Reef. For all those who don't know, at somewhere I used to have a thing there. I guess I didn't add your name badge, so I'm not going to tell everybody what your name is. But you used to have your little Reefer After Dark down there. But that's Reef. I'm Indy. This is How Do We Miss That? This is INN. This little QR code down here, down in the corner that you see. What? This little.
Sorry, it's me.
Okay, this little QR code down there, we're trying to raise some money to help Jesse, our friend Jesse Jett, who I host for American Tradition every other Tuesday night.
we're working to get him a new PC, a new laptop, some kind of new computer so that he can do better streams, make better music, even better than he makes right now, which is still incredible. Can only imagine, like, look, when I first got my laptop and I was running on a 10-year-old MacBook Air, I felt like unchained. And then we built the streaming computer, and then I felt like an absolute animal. Like, and 3.5 years later, I can't stop doing this every single day, 7 days a week. So I can't imagine what'll happen when we get Jesse some better stuff. I mean, I that's my dream. I can't wait to see him get into a studio and with like real equipment and band and mixers, and that is where I eventually want to see that go with him, honestly. And I think we'd all like to see that at some point. So QR code, you can help us raise some money at Ko-fi, and there'll actually be a little sound effect, and I think something might even show up on the screen when we get one, and you'll hear Nancy Pelosi say,
"Who are these people?"
Yes, that is what we will hear once that happens. So if you hear that in the middle of the stream, that's why, because a Ko-fi comes in. So, all right, well, let's get to some stories, and then we can kind of talk about what we did during the week and everything else beforehand, you know, in the middle. But Colin, Indy meeting Sabi ain't nothing. You met her in person twice. Well, yes, because she went to down to DC for some rallies, and you guys met at rally. Not only you met her protesting. I only met her at a party for her birthday, but that's all right. That's all right. All right, so let's get to some stories here. All right, and this is going to be a tough one. But we have not talked about Gaza. We have not talked about Israel Palestine. We've been off for months. And we were back for the first time last month since December. We did talk about it certainly between October and December. But there's a lot to discuss. And this was actually, believe it or not, from last Sunday. So I'm going to bring both last Sunday and today's to show some of the differences in where things have moved in just a week. And we're going to look at both both from Mondoweiss, both Al-Aqsa Floods, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. They literally publish an update every day. Please subscribe and support this wonderful independent outlet made up of Jews, Palestinians, anti-Zionists, anti-imperialists, and they also are a Indie Media Award honoree by not by any chance, you know, not by any mistake, because they do outstanding work. So, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood Day.
Tic-tac-toe, a winner.
Oh, God almighty. I'm going to have to hear that all night long. Oh.
Yes, you are.
Oh, man.
Yep, deal with it.
Deal with it. Tell me again how it's all about Hamas, because Israel deployed 15,000 troops last Sunday to the West Bank at the start of Ramadan.
It's all about Hamas.
Hamas? Okay. So that kind of is upsetting, I'd say, a little bit. Like, what's going on there? So we've got Mustafa Abu Sneineh. I don't want to mess up his name. I apologize. The Al-Qassam Brigade spokesman says Israel is using deception and evasion. They deployed thousands of. So this is one summary, and then you've got a little bit more of a detailed summary. And this is what I wanted to show. And these are official numbers according to the Gaza Health Ministry. This was as of last Sunday: 31,045 killed and 72,645 in Gaza. 25 children in Gaza have died of malnutrition and dehydration since the beginning of March. On top of the fact that, again, tell me this is about Hamas, where Hamas does not operate at all. 423 plus Palestinians killed in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. What? Why? Well, we once again see Israel revising its estimated October 7th death toll down from 1,400 to 1,147. I think they was at 1,200 or change, but now it's down to 1,147, and that doesn't even separate the non-combatants from the civilians, because the soldiers then comprised at least half. And then you, on top of that, identify the ones that were taken out by the IDF because of the Hannibal Directive, and those were exterminated allegedly, because even though the ICJ has already ruled that is what happened. But 588 Israeli soldiers killed since October 7th, and at least 3,200 injured. So what's it worth to Israel? Why? On top of everything else that you could say. But these are their fact-check numbers and where they're coming from. And these updates are extensive. So beyond that, you've got key developments. And this is coming from the people inside the walls. So I tend to believe this a lot more.
Coming from inside the house?
Well, no, there are walls around all of Gaza. So no, it's inside the walls. Literally. And and unfortunately they leveled the house. So there is no house. It's inside the tent, maybe. It's
coming from inside.
It's heartbreaking to even giggle about it. So
I know.
This was the one that made me want to cover this story, because nobody that I heard really was talking about this in the last week. Is that 15,000 soldiers were deployed to the West Bank and Jerusalem ahead of Ramadan, including 5,000 reservists, 24 battalions, 20 border police companies, and 2 special forces units. Because that's what you need at Ramadan, is special forces units. Yep. Okay. There was an attempt for ceasefire talks, and that broke down. And the Hamas Al-Qassam Brigade's spokesperson ruled out any breakthrough there, describing Israel's position as deceptive. And there's a lot more in this article about that.
Deceptive. That's
yes.
the way to put it.
Well,
yep.
And it's always the details, right? So Israel's campaign of starvation against Palestinians in Gaza is affecting Israeli captives, some of whom also are suffering from hunger, malnutrition, and dehydration. Go figure! When you starve the Palestinian people, you starve the captives that they also hold. Like this. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, is not even being reported in independent media much. At least, certainly not in the corporate independent media world. You're certainly not hearing anybody on, really, I hear the Hill Rising, other than maybe matter-of-factly going through one of these or two of these, but getting angry about it and really railing, I don't know. Maybe you hear occasionally, but it's just, 4 out of 7 Israeli captives who died due to who've died due to Israeli raids on the Gaza Strip. Right. So they're, again, Hannibal Directive, allegedly, murdering their own. We 72% of the death toll are women and children, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which the Israeli intelligence and Israeli Health Ministry usually accepts as the fact after the fact. And Gaza City municipality says Israel destroyed a 1 million square meter of roads within the Gaza Strip. What do you think it'll cost to rebuild 1 million square meters of roads?
I mean, it's a little cheaper when you're just going to replace it with a canal, but, you know.
Well, if there's no plan to replace it. But they have built a road that's going to subdivide Gaza across. But we're going to talk about that later. Gaza also needs heavy vehicles and fuel supplies to clean rubble and nearly 70,000 tons of rubbish. But, of course, we know that no aid trucks are being able to be let in. But also, rescue teams transferred 37 bodies of Palestinian dead and 118 people to Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital overnight. They don't even have hospitals at this point. U.S. to send Army vessel to Eastern Mediterranean to deliver aid and supplies. That was a week ago. How's that going? We know what's going to happen there. They're going to help in building the port. that you guys covered on Wednesday night. Disgraceful.
Yep, big wooden horse with Trojans in it. You know?
And then you've got Wafa reports Israeli bombing of tents, displaced Palestinians killed 15 in Al-Maswi, west of Khan Yunis. And oh man, Spain's considering recognizing a Palestinian state by 2027. And I wonder how they're going to do that. Okay, sure. Where that's going to be physically, I don't know. But, then they go into detail of all of these bullets. And I don't even want to say bullets, but all of these key developments. It's horrible. And then you've got this week. So now, a week later, what we've got going on is now you've got day 163. A top official says that Israel failed to prove its accusations against UNRWA, which I don't think that is much of a surprise. And of course, they've got the heartbreaking photo of a family, and you can see that's obviously a very young child. And now that number, I wanted to bring that back here. So last week it was 31,045 and 72,645. This week it's 31,645, so another 600 killed officially. And it went from 72,645 to 73,676, so over 1,000 wounded in a week. 600 killed, 1,000 wounded. And of course, we know that that's likely under here. Some rights groups put the death toll closer to 35,000 when accounting for those presumed dead. Gaza's health ministry just confirmed this figure. So you've got 435 Palestinians killed in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. Again, this is about Hamas, right? They don't operate. There is no Hamas there. Why are they killing all these people there? And there's also been thousands taken prisoner in West Bank, like thousands. Israel again has revised its death toll down. They said that last week to 1147. And now you've got an update to 591, 3 more Israeli soldiers killed, and the same number injured. And that again was released by the Mossad, literally, by the Israeli military. Now this week, what's happening is that you've got Netanyahu saying that the army will operate in Rafah as international and U.S. officials warn of invading the southernmost Gaza district, where at least 1 million Palestinians have been displaced to. They obviously don't give a fuck. And nobody's stopping them. Isn't that wonderful? We live in hell. I mean, I don't even know, like, where do you go with it? But you've got to talk about it. You've got to document it. And you've got to give light to it, because there's not enough channels that are, and we're doing it, thankfully, and credit to the ones who are, and I appreciate the ones who do. But then you've even got Tedros, the WHO chief, and we're not a fan of his whatsoever. Whitney Webb has done extensive research and talked about him. Check out Unlimited Hangout, another indie media word on re. WHO chief says further escalation in violence in Rafah's densely populated area would lead to many more deaths and suffering, especially with health facilities already overwhelmed. Health facilities, not even hospital, but health facilities, because they're basically tent setup. And when you've even got this guy who was completely in the pocket of the World Economic Forum and all the bankers and everybody else screaming the alarm bells, come on, man. According to Al Jazeera Arabic, right? Clan chiefs in Gaza and UN officials. How about this one? UN officials are delivering aid following directions issued by Hamas security agencies, asking Palestinians not to gather near areas where aid trucks arrive due to frequent Israeli attacks on crowds seeking aid. So now it's let us distribute the aid and let us take the risk of being murdered for going and getting the aid that is making it in Because Israel's doing that too. Allegedly. Except for all the
allegedly.
Except for all the places where they're celebrating and admitting that they're doing it. Euromed chairman says instruction from Gaza police to tell people to back off when aid deliveries arrive, because it was met with full commitment from the population. Yeah, they don't want to be murdered. They've seen the flower massacres and they've heard about the flower massacres. I don't know if they've seen it. They don't have a TV. They don't have electricity. They don't have running water. They don't have anything. But they know about the flower massacre. Israel is now trying to create an authority in Gaza in place of Hamas by using humanitarian aid as a tool to strengthen and push some clan leaders to the front seat. Hey, you want to get your people some food? You want to become the new leaders of the Palestinian people and the resistance effort? Join us and do what we say and take our food, our expired MREs, as they're giving you. Allegedly. EU's top humanitarian aid official says Israel did not present any evidence of claims against UNRWA to him or any official at the EU executive or to any other donor. Come on, people. Well, yes. Yes, thank you, Animares. We are, as Jimmy Dore said to that general this week, we are the terrorists. And that general, could not really say much to say other than to say, due to my military training, I can't really believe that, but I understand you're feeling that way. Yeah, it was General Anthony Tata.
Why are we giving generals the time of day?
That's a whole other question. That's a whole other question. But saying it to his face and hearing the reaction and the response was kind of funny. But and Jimmy saying, "I just want to call you Tata," and that was funny in itself too. But anyway. I don't really, it's the only segment I listen to all week. I happened to turn on the podcast the other day. But anyway, EU official, and I'm not even going to bother trying to butcher that last name, says, of course, more aid is needed to enter the Gaza Strip by trucks, and Israel should open additional land crossing points. No shit, Sherlock. Wow. Talk about understatement of the year. Armed clashes intensify in Al-Zahara city, south of Gaza, now as Israel finishes building a fortified highway, effectively splitting the enclave in two from the north to the south. And that was the thing I wanted to dig into a little further. And then Mahmoud Nofal succumbs to his wounds after armed clashes with Israeli soldiers stationed near Al-Shuhada Street in Hebron. This is all unnecessary. And the worst part really is when I try to have a conversation with anybody who is in my world but is propagandized still and not believing what their eyes or not seeing what we see because their news feeds don't show it to them. It's how do you, their brains can't even understand what's really going on here. And you start to explain it and they get angry at you. It's very much like a case of a Julian Assange in a way. It's they're angry at the messenger and not at the action and what's actually happening. And that is, wow. Anyway, so Netanyahu, like we said, vows to invade Rafah despite the international red line. Right, we know that's going to happen. So they either have a choice to surrender and go to what they deem as a safe zone. Holy shit. They're already sleeping in tents, and now they're, for 1.2 million Palestinians, now they have to move again. They want them displaced again, while provided little food and drink, which has already led to the death of dozens thanks to malnutrition and dehydration. Here you've seen in the last 24 hours, and again, this was published a day ago already, 9 massacres in various areas of Gaza, killing at least 92 and injuring another 130. And thousands remain under rubble. And I hate to bum everyone out on their Sunday night, but you know, this is we owe it to them and the stories of what's happening here to talk about this, and I haven't enough, and we've been off. I've been sharing it on Substack, of course, and on IndieMediaToday.com. Go there, you see that there. But Israeli forces had expelled hundreds of thousands of Palestinians under heavy bombardment and fire. That's nice, and that's even a kind way to say it. From areas in the north and central Gaza to Rafah, we know, which at one point was designated as a safe zone, and now, of course, that's not so much a safe zone, I guess, designated anymore. And now he's decided that they're Hamas too, I guess. Motherfucking criminals.
Everyone's Hamas, bro. Didn't you know?
Biden continues to talk him down, of course, while simultaneously feeding him weapons and money. The head of the WHO said that many people are too fragile, sick, and hungry to be moved again. Yes. And that they also, by the way, don't have anywhere safe to move to. So what, go back toward the bombs? Or toward the fence where they're gonna... They're not letting you out.
Yes. You got to learn to love the bomb. You got to learn to love it. You know?
Oh, you know, it's really funny that everyone went hysterical over Donald Trump using this word last night to describe how the American economy would happen and what would happen to the automotive industry if he does not become president. That it would become a bloodbath. I remember hearing that word, and a lot of people running around with their hair on fire today about that.
Yep.
But actually, several UN officials warned of an actual bloodbath in Rafah if Israel launched an assault on the area. Jesus Christ. While we sit.
Jesus Christ.
While the US aids and abets this and funds it and arms it and cheers it on. It's such a disgrace.
Yep.
What a disgrace. Overnight, aid deliveries arriving in North Gaza were unloaded in a center belonging to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, which is UNRWA, to distribute it to people. And according to Al Jazeera Arabic, local clan chiefs in Gaza and UN officials had managed to deliver the aid following a directive issued by Hamas security agencies asking Palestinians not to gather near Kuwait Roundabout or Salah el-Din Street, where aid trucks typically arrive. Why? Because Israeli forces have routinely targeted Palestinians who gathered to get food in these areas in recent weeks, killing hundreds, as we call them, the flower massacres. Due to immense food shortages, and if you want to learn more about that, by the way, watch Richard Medhurst, watch Eva Bartlett, watch Vanessa Bealey, watch Convo Couch, watch, who else is talking about this? Mondoweiss again, Declassified UK. You've got a lot of platforms that are talking about this. Of course, Richard Medhurst, who we'll talk about later. We'll cover his article about Julian. But due to immense food shortages and a crippled aid distribution system, crowds of starving Palestinians have been forced to climb on trucks to get their share while risking Israeli bullets or being crushed by crowds. It's like what they show in the movies. You know, again, this is why they precondition you to see these kinds of sights, so that when you see it, you're a little bit disheartened to it. And I'm not, and I refuse to be, but I recognize it and I'm calling it out. But Rami Abdullah, who's the chairman of the Euromed Human Rights Monitor in Geneva, wrote on Twitter that for the past 160 days, now 163, the Israeli occupation army has been targeting members of the police and civil services in Gaza to create a state of chaos and cast doubt on its control. We've covered that they've been targeting doctors and journalists, and now we hear also police, which makes sense. The instruction from Gaza police to people to back off the deliveries to arrive was met with full commitment. These agencies succeeded for the first time in securing the entry of some humanitarian needs to reach the northernmost point of the Gaza Strip. I mean, I don't even know how many people are still left up there, but you know, they've been bombing the shit out of that and literally leveled the entire area. We've seen the footage, the drone footage.
Yep.
So last week, here we go, several Palestinian clans affirmed their position that they refuse to be an alternative political regime in the Gaza Strip and coordinate humanitarian missions with Israel. Very important. Solidarity. They all need to remain on the same page. And this is the one thing that the Zionists and the Israel supporters keep saying is if they just release the hostages.
Yeah, they pumped seawater into the same tunnel hostages were at. They don't care. Like,
well, there's also been offers.
They literally don't care.
They also offered to release all the hostages in exchange for Israel releasing all their hostages, and that was dismissed.
Multiple times. Multiple times they've offered stuff that Israel's turned down.
Saying, well, how can you trust them?
So,
but how can you potentially make a deal? You're just, all you demand is complete, or it's 1 for 100, I believe is currently the ratio they want. They'll exchange 1 Palestinian for 100 Israelis.
Yeah, which is literally saying that we're 100 more than you are.
Always. They always have been.
Yeah.
It's been that way.
Fucking stupid.
Yes. So, of course, we see that Israel did not present evidence against UNRWA. They have been vital in providing humanitarian services to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, but, of course, the agency was stripped in January of nearly $450 million of funding after top donors, including the U.S., suspended payment in January in the wake of Israeli allegations against the agency. What is this? Well, Israel has accused the UN agency of employing over 450 military operatives. Now, it's interesting that it's $450 million for 450 military operatives. Conveniently, when you're making it up, you might as well just make up a number that matches the same number, I guess. From Hamas and other resistance groups, right? Alleging that a dozen of them took part in the October 7th attack, a claim again which Israel has yet to back up with any concrete evidence whatsoever. Now, since the initial withdrawal of funding, several countries, including Australia, Sweden, and Canada, have resumed their donation pledges to UNRWA as they have not seen any evidence backing Israel's accusations. Of course, now they have not made good on the January payment, to my knowledge, but they've resumed payments at least for February and March, which is nice. But that was also part of Israel's plan, was to further starve the Palestinians to deprive them of that money in addition. Even if it's a month, that's really bad. UNRWA's initial investigations have also found that some of its staff in Gaza were severely tortured and abused by Israeli forces and were forced into making false confessions to support Israel's claims that the agency's staff have ties to Hamas. What a surprise. Again, doing exactly what they accuse the other side of. And this is...
AK, we tortured some folks.
Something like that. But it's also that Israel accuses Hamas of doing this to Israeli prisoners, except that the Israeli prisoners all come back and say the opposite, or the ones that do, that they don't, that aren't killed in firefights because Israel will cease fire and allow the Hamas to return the prisoners at all. The EU's top humanitarian aid official, as we said, has confirmed that Israel did not present any evidence that the claims against UNRWA to him or any official at the EU executive or to any other donor. And that in early March, it's going to pay the EU the $55 million in donation to UNRWA but will hold back nearly $35 million until the investigation into Israel's allegations is resolved. Like, what? Okay. UNRWA's already like screamed and sounded the alarm bell that they don't even have enough to operate now. And that's also again part of Israel's plan is to set up another network like that. Well, I guess I have to put that up. Can I do that here? No, I don't have the ability. I didn't bring that screen. All right. Well, according to Ghost Art over on Rumble, allegedly, and this is not confirmed, but the largest medical complex in Gaza, Al-Shifa Hospital, once again is being attacked by Israel in the middle of the night, right now, as we speak and as we're reading this.
Nice.
But this was about the West Bank and about this was about 15,000 troops in the West Bank and about the fact that that they're not attacking this is about Hamas, right? Where Hamas is not in the West Bank. Happy Sunday, CBC voter. Lenarchik said more aid needs to enter the Gaza Strip by lorries, trucks, and Israel should open additional land crossing points. We have stated that. U.S. maritime corridor set up from Cyprus to Gaza is, although a welcome addition, only can complement the land routes.
Yeah, bullshit.
Yes. You cannot, in current circumstances, provide sufficient supplies by maritime routes or airdrops because there is no real port in the Gaza Strip. And even once they build one, we know what they're going to do. And somebody left a very interesting comment I noticed on our YouTube channel under the port that you had from the coverage that you guys had the other day.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that will eventually then be used to bring arms into Israel as well, likely. That's what I wanted to show from Ghost Star. The largest medical complex is in Al-Shifa is being attacked by Israel. So I'm not reporting this. He is. This is unconfirmed, but I wanted to show that. So Israel bombed central Gaza, and we know that was happening. Israel forces kill Palestinian in Hebron. What the hell's going on there? The U.S. sanctions the West Bank settlers. That's nice, but right, again, 435 Palestinians in occupied West Bank and Jerusalem, according to the Ministry of Health. Palestinian Authority's Ministry of Health, because the Palestinian Authority controls the West Bank, not Hamas or the Gaza Health Ministry. Israel also arrested 7,605 Palestinians in the West Bank since October.
Since October.
Yeah. Since October. Are they going to be released at any point? On Saturday, it arrested 65 workers in Jaffa, and 36 of them remain under investigation, according to Wafa.
Jaffa.
Right. Israeli forces also arrested Palestinians from Jenin, Hebron, Galilee, and Bethlehem overnight. 2 attacks from Israeli.
That's where the cakes come from.
Settlers. Is that right? Yes, the Jaffa cakes.
Jaffa cakes.
Sure.
Tasty, delicious.
In Burn, south of Nablus, they threw stones on Palestinian homes and fired bullets in the air with no injuries reported, while in Duma they threatened Palestinians of expelling them from the area. Like,
so wait.
Yep.
This is another thing that they accuse other Palestinians of doing. They throw rocks at us. Yeah, except you also throw rocks at them and then some. So yeah, they threw stones on Palestinian houses. That's nice.
Yep.
Nice of them to do that.
Yep. So
some
of those settlers have been put under U.S. Department sanctions, like we said, which also put 2 illegal outposts, Moshe's farm and Zvi's farm, on the list. Right? That's probably like illegal outposts. You know what that means? Mossad intelligence stations.
Settler. Yeah.
No, Moshe's farm, Zvi He was a Mossad agent. Moshe, yes, was Moses, but also there were very famous agents there too. In occupied Jerusalem, 60,000 Palestinians performed Ramadan's Tarawih prayer in Al-Aqsa Mosque on Saturday night. And Israeli authorities are still limiting the numbers of Palestinians from the West Bank to even enter Jerusalem at Ramadan to pray at Al-Aqsa. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
We're fucked.
Wafa reported that Israeli forces set up at least 30 makeshift checkpoints in the outskirts of the old city, at the city's gates, and at the entrances of Al-Aqsa. Can you imagine getting all the way from West Bank to the front of Al-Aqsa and then not getting through that checkpoint, getting turned around? I guarantee you that's happening. I guarantee you that's happening.
Yeah.
That's so. I also wanted to. We're not crazy about these guys. They certainly do State Department propaganda, but they also once in a while are allowed to get it right. And this was the other day, which was a further report on UNRWA saying that Israel tortured and waterboarded staff, which led to the false confessions.
No.
Waterboarding. Where did we hear about waterboarding before?
We tortured some folks.
We did torture some folks.
You know?
So, yeah, UNRWA has accused the Israeli military of beating and waterboarding some of its staff held in Israeli prisons. That's just par for the course, according to the reports from the Palestinians who have been in there before. So they're effectively treating them as if they treat the rest of the Palestinians. Agency staff members, quote, have been subject to threats and coercion by the Israeli authorities while in detention and pressured to make false statements against the agency, including that the agency has affiliations with Hamas and that UNRWA staff members took part in the October 7th atrocities.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. UNRWA's faced a crisis, obviously, since Israel's accused a number of UNRWA staff workers of taking part in the October 7th attacks. Two of which, by the way, were killed on October 7th. And over 100 UNRWA relief workers have been killed since October 7th. I did not see that mentioned.
This is part of the thing with that, like, with that port, that, like, Israel wants UNRWA out of the picture.
And has for a long time.
You know, they've been claiming they're Hamas, so...
But they have for a long time. There's been a long-term plan to replace.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy, Haiti guy. All right, so he's going to resign.
More headlines is what you.
That's more headlines. Sorry. Okay, so back to this because we're done with the portion. But there is one more story, and we're going to bring that in. But it's a short one because it's from Dave DeCamp, and we love our Dave DeCamp stories. Right, Colin, bloodbath is okay, but genocide is? Yeah, no, and no, and no. Agreed, Care Bear. Care Bear says no.
Yep.
Yes, Angel's so fucking scary when they actually are saying it out loud. And then they turn around and run around hysterical when Trump says that the auto industry is going to experience a bloodbath. Like, what? What? Okay. Oh, and there was another thing that Crab put up today that was like literally 5 days ago where the corporate media was saying that that Biden, that there was something going on where there was a bloodbath there too. And, okay. Oh, come on. There's Crab, INN, politically homeless if he ever decides to do another show one of these days. Hamas, play what? No, I'm not going to play it.
The thing.
I'm not going to play it.
Oz was here.
Oz the boomer.
Brains, who knew?
Oz the boomer's here? Anna Mayers is here.
Yep.
She says she loves Care Bear. No.
Yep.
Oh, what? Okay. Anyway. All right. We're getting to our next story, which is again a Dave DeCamp antiwar.com story. We love Dave DeCamp. We love Antiwar. They are both Indie Media Award honorees, 2022 for Antiwar, 23 for Dave. And he reported this the other day, which is that the U.S. intelligence threat assessment says that Hamas is not going away, which is we knew, and Israel does not really want them to technically go away because they need to have the other side there to continue to fight, fundraise, and rail against, sadly enough. It's awful. And on top of the fact that 163 days in, they're not very good at getting their target, if that's really who their target is, because according to all assessments, they have not really eliminated even 20 or 30% of Hamas. So let's read a little bit more about what Dave has to say, that an annual threat assessment compiled by the U.S. intelligence agencies, bullshit, was released on Monday and said that Israel will likely face resistance from Hamas for years to come. Another sign that Netanyahu's stated goal of eradicating the Palestinian group isn't realistic. It also is talking out of both sides of his mouth. Quote, Israel will probably face lingering armed resistance from Hamas for years to come, and the military will struggle to neutralize Hamas's underground infrastructure, which allows insurgents to hide, regain strength, and surprise Israeli forces, the assessment reads. The tunnels! Yep. The assessment aligns with an Israeli military intelligence document because they believe what the intelligence says. They don't question it. That was circulated last month and said even if Israel succeeded in dismantling Hamas as an organized military force, the group would still exist as a terror group and a guerrilla group. Wait a minute. I'm going to read that back because that is... Wait a minute. Not just secret tunnel, but what they're saying is even if they dismantled all of Hamas, they would somehow still exist as a terror group? Wait a minute.
Hamas is in all our hearts. They are everywhere around you. They are omnipresent and omnipowerful. And, you know.
And this was a legitimate, like, serious U.S. military threat assessment that made it to the fucking president's desk.
Yep.
And he believes this shit.
Yep, just like incubator babies made it to the president's desk.
Other reports, of course, have said that Israel is struggling to destroy, and hit me with it again, the vast tunnel network under Gaza, the secret tunnels.
Through the mountains, secret tunnel, yeah.
Thank you. That is key, of course, to Hamas's survival and is far more expensive than Israel initially thought. Yeah, again.
Of course it is. It's pricey. Send us money.
It's
like Ukraine all over again.
But they had detailed maps to know exactly where everybody, every house, and every tunnel was. Just ask them. But now,
Trust me, bro.
We don't know, man. They built new tunnels in the last 6 months. They must have. While they were being bombed, they must have built new tunnels with all the heavy equipment, and nobody could hear it or feel it or anything.
Yep.
Oh, wait. Oh, Israel built some of those. Oh, right. Oh, shh. Don't tell anybody. Allegedly.
All
right. Allegedly.
On the public platform.
Yes. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Charles Q. Brown, the highest-ranking military U.S. officer, previously said that Israel's mass murdering of civilians in Gaza will be a recruiting boon for Hamas. Go figure. The faster you can get to a point where you stop the hostilities, the less you have less strife for the civilian population that turns into someone who now wants to be the next member of Hamas. So wait. If you stop killing them, you don't create new members of Hamas instantly because they want to avenge the deaths of their entire family and street and everyone they know and their professors and their journalists and their teachers. Huh. Go figure. The U.S. military even figured that out, folks. Despite believing that Netanyahu's goal is unrealistic, the U.S. continues to provide unconditional military support for Israel's genocidal war, which has killed at least over 31,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, according to Mondoweiss 72%. The Biden administration
Never mind. Keep going.
is trying to distance itself, of course, from Netanyahu by criticizing his government while funding it and arming it. But the rhetoric hasn't amounted to a policy change because I don't really believe you because I can't hear you over what I see you doing. U.S. threat assessment said that while Hamas isn't going away, Netanyahu could lose his hold on power. Uh-huh. Go ahead, Reef.
What?
Oh, you were gonna say something. Before.
No, you're good.
Netanyahu's viability as a leader, according to the threat assessment, as well as his governing coalition of far-right and orthodox parties that pursued hardline policies on Palestinian and security issues before October 7th, mind you. I just added that part. May be in jeopardy for the podcast people. I just added that. Before October 7th was not in there. Distrust of Netanyahu's ability to rule has deepened and broadened across the public.
Test. I did that. Sorry.
Okay.
Cool.
Distrust of Netanyahu's ability to rule has deepened and broadened across the public from its already high levels before the war. Before the massacre and bombing has started. And we expect large protests demanding his resignation and new elections. Oh, okay. The war because it's quoting the military, literally. They expect large protests demanding his resignation and new elections. A different, more moderate government is a possibility. Maybe, except that we've seen studies and statistics that show that 80% of Israelis support what's happening here, or at least are not fully opposed to it. The assessment also said that Iran had no role in Hamas's October 7th attack, as we knew, and acknowledged Tehran is not seeking a nuclear weapon. Huh, that's interesting. The U.S. military, let's remember this, and I want to document this because you can guarantee that over the next 2 years, somebody is going to say and try to scapegoat and justify escalation with Iran because of their attempt to gain a nuclear weapon. This is the U.S. threat assessment saying, number one, they had nothing to do with October 7th, and then number two, they're not seeking a nuclear weapon. Those were two of the things that most of the Republicans and the conservatives had their fucking hair on fire about when it came to the Iran peace accords, was that they were worried that this is what was going to happen. And it's not. The report does acknowledge that Iran's increases in uranium enrichment since the U.S. tore up the nuclear deal in 2018 were to gain leverage for negotiations, not to seek a bomb. Even the fucking military says this.
Yep.
Iran is using its nuclear program to build negotiating leverage and respond to perceived international pressure. What are they supposed to do? They're not bound by the agreement at this point. They want to bring him back to the table. What I would do, honestly, but that's just me. Woohoo! Oh, you were testing. More coffee? Thank you, Kate.
Yes.
Nice.
But we did get one. Yeah, we did get one. That's why I was testing.
Oh. Cool. Woohoo!
So, I don't know why that one we didn't hear, or unless she did it to your Kofi or something. I don't know.
No, she did the QR code. She hit it there. She got it right. She did it last time. She's great. We love her. Thank you, Kate.
Okay. Well, I don't know why it didn't work.
More coffee. Thank you, Kate. Hey. All right. So you see, we've got now the Jesse meter. I'm having fun, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Let me have some fun. This is horrible, horrible shit. And we're done with this portion. Now, we're going to get to an article that I was so impressed. You know, I'm going to fanboy out a little bit. And that's what, you know what? Before we do that, let's. Oh, Greg and Himbo are working on something.
Don't fanboy out.
Well,
just don't do that.
I think that we have a lot of Richard Medhurst fans in the chat, and our next article and the next thing that we're going to cover. This man does not write a lot of articles. He doesn't publish a lot, but when he does, he writes some really good stuff. Now, as it turns out, I think this might even be the transcript of a video that he did, and that's on his Rumble channel that I saw. Don't watch him on YouTube because they're demonetizing him. Watch him over on Rumble. Watch him over on Rockfin. We're live over on Rockfin and Rumble. Yeah, look, that guy was instrumental in my awakening about the Palestinian people and about what was happening. That on top of
Wake up, asshole.
Exactly that moment. A year later, the bombing of the AP building and the communications, but the media building in Gaza really did it for me. And that showed me just that they don't want the story getting out ever. And it's heartbreaking. And we've watched, all these incredible journalists attacked and a lot of them killed, and so Angel does write really well, and when he does, but Angel should be using his Substack to do it as stream alerts because he's got 2 shows going and he should be making a mailing list for that. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I love you, Angel. I'm just giving you a hard time. Everybody check out Angel in the Afternoon, Fridays at 7 Eastern on INN. And Saturday we do Pro Wrestling Talk, and he's got his co-host, Miss Witchy Perfect, and they've been having guests every week, and they're having fun doing that. And then she runs the show on her channel, her YouTube channel. Subscribe to her YouTube channel too. And she's over on Rumble. I know they're building. So now it's good stuff, man. All right. Now we've got Richard Medhurst wrote for Al-Mayadeen. So somebody decided they wanted to publish his article, and I really appreciate that. And this is an Assange article, and who better to write an Assange article than someone who's been in the courtroom for all of the hearings since 2020. So he publishes some of his photos and some other photos, and a tweet about Cryptome from September of 2020 while he was covering the.
I'm sorry. You mean Cryptome?
Is that Meltome?
Yeah, Marissa Tomei.
Speaking of Cryptome, I did a little investigating, a little looking into Cryptome. What happened to them, and we mutually followed each other yesterday on Twitter, which was kind of cool, at Indie Media Today, which I thought was pretty interesting. He asks really hard questions that I don't think a lot of people really want to ask, and that's another story for another day. But he's here for an important reason, and we're going to get to it. But Richie wrote an incredible article, and he also did this in about a 14 or 15 minute video, and he can summarize it much better than I can with a lot of passion. But I want to go through this because there's so many important points, and he kind of glazes over them, and he goes at lightning speed, and you got to keep up with Richie, and that's one of the things I love about him. But I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive. And what I love about this article is that this is really for an entry point for somebody who's never heard of the case. Where do you start? And I've been looking for an article kind of like this. I mean, I know there are good videos. Declassified UK, Juan Passarelli did a good one. There's a few good ones. But we haven't seen a more recent
Assange edition.
Effectively. So that's what this is. So Julian Assange is an Australian journalist in the United Kingdom and the founder of WikiLeaks. He published documents that were given to him by a U.S. soldier called Chelsea Manning, which showed that U.S. war crimes were happening in Iraq, Afghanistan, and much more. The U.S. wants to extradite Assange from the UK to America and put him on trial for publishing these classified documents they're threatening him with 175 years in prison. The reason this case is so serious is because it essentially makes journalism illegal. He says this in very simple, like, explain it to me like I'm 5 terms. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
The United States claims Assange ass manning for classified documents and that this is a crime. It is not. The U.S. alleges that Assange having classified documents in his possession and publishing them is a crime. It's not. Asking for classified documents, protecting sources, these are things that journalists do every single day all around the world. But because these files were so embarrassing to the United States and exposed the brutality of their war crimes, they are threatening Assange with almost 2 centuries in prison, and to do it, they're accusing him of being a spy and a hacker, charging him with 17 counts under the Espionage Act, and with 1 count of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. And this is the first page of the superseding indictment against him. His video shows all kinds of funky graphics and good stuff. I'm now hearing your headphones in your mic, but that's just probably to me. I don't think that everyone else hears that. The goal of this indictment is to make an example out of Assange, of course, and to make other journalists afraid to publish things that the public has a right to know. For sure. If extradited, Assange would be placed in the worst prison conditions imaginable, Special Administrative Measures, or SAMs, a strict regime of solitary confinement, no contact with other prisoners allowed, and barely any contact with your family. SAMs are internationally recognized as torture. Of course, Julian would be sent to the worst prison in America, ADX Florence, a super maximum security facility in Colorado. I also want to add that he would be tried in the intelligence court in Virginia, and I believe he covers this later, but the intelligence court has a 98% conviction rate of those that are accused and that come before it. So it's almost a fait accompli that he would be convicted and sentenced to ADX Florence. On January 4th, 2021, we rejoiced as British Judge Vanessa Baritzer blocked Assange's extradition because U.S. prison conditions would be so oppressive in his current state as to drive him to suicide. Nevertheless, despite blocking the extradition on health grounds, she agreed with all the political and trumped-up charges. Ritchie attended all of Assange's court hearings and saw the smears against him debunked by dozens of expert witnesses. But the judge still chose to side with the U.S. He chose to essentially criminalize journalism, even drawing dangerous equivalencies between the U.S. Espionage Act and Britain's Official Secrets Act. That's very dangerous. After this, the U.S. went to the English High Court to appeal her ruling and won by providing empty promises that they would supposedly treat Assange well, even though the U.S. has a history of violating extradition assurances. Ritchie exposed this when he published classified documents from David Mendoza's extradition from Spain to the U.S., a case previously cited in court by Julian's lawyers. By the way, go to IndieMediaToday.com for the free Julian Assange from February 11th. We actually had that article embedded, so you don't have to go digging for it from Ritchie's article. And he published that on Substack more than 2 years ago. I think we covered it through his Substack article. We went through it in detail on this show more than 2 years ago. Yeah, we've been doing this that long. We're geezers, I say. Anyway. Love you, Richie. After the U.S. succeeded in overturning the lower court's ruling in December 2021, there was only one thing left: a signature from the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, who allowed the extradition to go ahead. So the above was everything that took place between 2020 and 2024, which now brings us to the latest, hearings at the Royal Courts of Justice in February, which we also covered on INN and on this Indie Left Media or Indie at INN channel last month live outside the hearings at the Royal Courts of Justice. Richie was inside. He was one of the people giving speeches, and we actually have his speech cut, and it was part of something that we did, a bunch of things that we did. I know it was part of something you did on INN News, right? Right, Reef? Pretty sure?
I might have missed Richie's, but I think somebody grabbed it. So
I know he grabbed it.
Somebody did something with it.
So on the first
Chrissy
point,
did it, I think.
Was it Legion? Yeah, it might have been Chris Legion. Check him out. No Labels Podcast. If you go to the INN Substack, and the INN Substack link is here. I'm going to drop that right here. Every week I publish an update with all of the live streams and appearances by all the members, including that one, which is a live stream that Chris and Big Bad Crab did together Friday morning. So check that out. But anyway, so point one is that they're going to appeal the ruling of the lower court, and that's what the U.S. is trying to do. Assange's lawyers are arguing that the judge was correct to block the extradition on health grounds, but she was wrong to agree with all the political charges. Why? Because they're saying it very plainly. This case is undemocratic, it criminalizes journalism, and it doesn't take into account the fact that the documents Assange posed exposed enormous U.S. war crimes that the public had a right to know about. And so he's just using the collateral murder video, right, which we've shown, but we don't want to get taken down from YouTube for showing collateral murder. Another claim made by the U.S. is that Assange harmed informants by publishing unredacted cables, but ironically, this was proven false by the U.S.'s own military when they court-martialed Chelsea Manning, who's again the soldier that gave the files to Assange, who actually did the hacking, who actually stole the material and leaked it to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks only published the classified material that was delivered to them. The U.S. military couldn't find a single example of anyone having been harmed by the disclosures. And again, there's a link there to a Guardian article from 2013 at the sentencing hearing, which I believe Kevin Gostola was actually at. Yeah. The assertion by the U.S. Julian Assange simply published all these documents without censoring or redacting names also simply is not true. Richie himself listened to many journalists tell the court how they spent countless hours meticulously redacting names with Assange.
Yeah.
His lawyers also argue that the judge in the lower court failed to undertake a balancing act. She blindly accepted the U.S.'s premise that the lives of informants who weren't harmed are more important than the people killed and tortured by the U.S. That the leaks revealed, because there were literally 15,000 Iraqis buried in a mass grave that nobody knew about, that were confirmed by WikiLeaks, for example, that were in the Iraq war logs. This is tantamount to saying the United States should be allowed to continue committing these war crimes in secret. Not just the United States, but the people we were talking about before too. And that somehow it's okay for them to butcher people in Iraq and Afghanistan and the public have no right to know. That's exactly, unfortunately, what the U.S. wants people to believe. But even if what the United States is saying were true, these documents were not published first by Assange. John Young, the owner of a website called cryptome.org, go ahead.
Cryptome.
Testified to the court that he was the one who published the documents first, and the United States never prosecuted him nor asked him to take them down.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that? Most people don't even know about this. You hear about this? You hear about this? We need that Jimmy Vollmer. You hear about this?
Once.
This demonstrates that the whole case against Assange is selective, political, and has nothing to do with the law. And again, this is a tweet from September 24th, 2020, where this man every single day went into the Old Bailey, listened to the hearing, ran to his hotel room, live streamed, and dumped his thoughts onto a live stream meticulously with his notes. It was wow. It was Outstanding. And you can go back and watch those live streams, and it's still just an incredible piece of journalism, honestly. So that's the John Young telling the Old Bailey that he published the unredacted cables first. The U.S. government never prosecuted him. So that's the screenshot with date and timestamp. Right. It's important to remember that Julian Assange is a journalist and a publisher. He is not a government employee nor a soldier who has signed a government contract or a contract that binds him to government secrecy. He is under no obligation to be quiet. Julian Assange isn't even from the United States. He isn't free from the United States either, and has never lived or worked there. He doesn't owe the United States anything. However, the prospect of the United States, a foreign government, imposing its laws on British soil to snatch a foreign journalist should scare anyone who's serious about press freedoms, anti-imperialism, and a British judiciary free of U.S. influence. Yes, the extraterritorialization, I got through without stumbling, of U.S. laws has been a hallmark of the U.S. war on terror. War on terror. The hate is for our freedom. The Espionage Act that Assange is being charged under was created during World War I in 1917. It has always been used as a political tool against dissidents such as Eugene Debs or whistleblowers like Daniel Ellsberg and Edward Snowden, who exposed the true extent of the U.S. war in Vietnam and NSA mass surveillance. Snowden, though, was a government employee, contractor. He did sign something, as did Daniel Hale. Thank God he's out. Welcome home, Daniel Hale. If you're charged under the Espionage Act, you're also forbidden from arguing a public interest defense. This means that even if you expose colossal government crimes, you still go to prison. Again, it's shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
The Home Secretary, of course, was wrong to allow the extradition as point number 2, that this constitutes the second point of Assange's appeal, which is that it's illegal in Britain to extradite someone to another country knowing that they could face the death penalty. This clearly came out during the Royal Courts of Justice appeal hearing, because they straight up asked if the Home Secretary, who has the final say on extraditions, is aware of such a risk, they're compelled to bar the extradition. And it's inconceivable. Right? Go ahead. You have that one, right?
It takes me a second to get that one, but
okay.
Yeah, somewhere.
It is inconceivable that Priti Patel... That one. That Priti Patel...
Inconceivable.
Right. She's the Home Secretary. It's inconceivable that she was aware of who Julian Assange is and the likelihood that he would be killed in the United States. Once in U.S. jurisdiction, the U.S. could pile on additional charges or simply execute him, as espionage is a capital offense. Though they would have to...
Inconceivable!
Thank you. Even without a specific death sentence, at 52 years old, even a 30-year bid is akin to a death sentence. And the hollow assurances given by the United States do not preclude the death penalty. And on top of that, the Home Secretary didn't even bother asking for assurances that would. So, how could the Home Secretary agree to send Assange to a foreign country that so clearly wants to see him dead? Well, we know that Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, former Kansas senator, who was back then at that point, head of the CIA, and then President Donald Trump, launched this legal case against Julian Assange. In the past, Donald Trump had called for Assange to be given the death penalty, which is insane. While Pompeo proclaimed Assange had no First Amendment rights or any constitutional rights, which, wait a minute, if you're going to try him under U.S. law, even though he's not really technically subject to it, you're also not going to extend him the rights provided under U.S. law? Okay. After WikiLeaks published a trove of CIA documents dubbed the Vault 7 leaks, Mike Pompeo declared war on WikiLeaks by publicly labeling it a non-state hostile intelligence service. But we believe that it's actually a step further, and they actually non-state hostile intelligence service actually has other connotations, and that actually invokes the word terrorism, which allows them to do a lot more.
Yeah.
All these political denunciations of WikiLeaks and Assange were then followed up with threats against him and his family. As we heard in court in 2020 from protected witnesses, the CIA had drawn up plans to potentially kidnap or assassinate Julian. Now, at that point, we didn't even know who his wife and child were. They were still anonymous, I believe, in September of 2020. That had not come out yet. Or it had just come out, maybe during the February trial. The United States is accusing Julian Assange of espionage. But normally, this is where the case should be thrown out, because espionage is considered a textbook political offense. And it is forbidden to extradite someone for a political offense under the U.S.-UK extradition treaty, Article 4. So you've got that he...
Yeah, which they're just throwing out the window.
They're throwing it all out the window.
Yeah.
Halo Benson, at these recent hearings, when asked about more charges that could lead to him being given the death penalty, the American attorneys would not give assurances that that would not happen, because they can't. A, they're not always going to be the lead attorneys on the case. So they can't give those kinds of assurances, nor can the United States. Because if they did, they would be lying. We know this.
Don't lie.
So, Max RJ says you can't publish the truth unless it's a lie. That is also, sadly, unfortunately, correct, at least in corporate media. Gamer, go see the White House counselor, as Kit likes to say. Oh, cookies too? Oh, we're going to have a long line at the White House counselor's office. Oh, boy. Okay, you all were checking out MMH, Mastermind Hour. We love him, so it's okay. All right, you're forgiven for this moment. Say 3 Hail Indies and we're good. No, I'm just fucking around. Anyway. Nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares. That's right. So, again, Article 4 automatically deems that any espionage case is instantly political and should be thrown out based upon the extradition treaty, but yet they're ignoring that too. They're just ignoring all the rules. And people get really mad when you remind them that they're ignoring all their rules. They go, whoa, but he should be in prison. But he should be. No, he shouldn't be. Customary extradition treaties have always forbidden extradition for political offenses such as espionage and treason. And this line of defense has been used before in court to successfully block extraditions. And there is Article 4 laid out in all its glory. I love when Richie writes. Again, he writes at a level that everyone can really understand this. Free Julian Assange. That's absolutely right. Thank you, Bad Cookies. Here's where the problem arises. Here's where it arises. As if we hadn't stumbled upon like 6. Right, here's your problem. The Extradition Act, which is the implementation of the US-UK treaty inside British law, is missing this section. This is likely due to the fact that it was passed at the height of the War on Terror in 2003, giving the Americans carte blanche to snatch people, drag them to the US, and throw them in dungeons. Yes, dungeons. We sent them to the dungeons.
Like the Tower of London.
Yes. At the time of its passage, many criticized the extradition treaty as being extremely one-sided in favor of the United States because Tony Blair was our bitch. There is that Extradition Act of 2003. Very simple. No matter how you look at Assange's case, it is unfair and illegal. Yes, it is. The United States wants to prosecute Julian Assange under U.S. law, but at the same time deny him any protections under U.S. law, such as free speech. If Assange has no First Amendment rights as a foreign national, then how can he be punished as a foreign national who is not even in the U.S.? This is such a flagrant double. Well, that's why they're dying to bring him here, and they want to get him on U.S. soil so they can claim that now he is here. Not by his own accord, of course. He would never come here. Again, ever. This is such a flagrant double standard and selective application of the law. Well, yeah. The European Convention on Human Rights is incorporated into British law through the Human Rights Act. Upon examination, it is clear that Julian's rights are being flagrantly violated by Belmarsh Prison themselves. He's obviously been ill-treated. He wasn't even well enough to attend his own appeal hearing via Zoom because they didn't want people to see how sickly he was, and they claimed that he had broken ribs from coughing too hard. Come on.
Yeah, what?
Come on, man.
You violated the law.
Here's another one that Article 5 protects one from arbitrary detention. So, how long have they been keeping him? Because this is a political case, it would be a violation of the extradition treaty to send him to America. Therefore, he has no reason to be in prison right now, and therefore is being arbitrarily detained in violation of his Article 5 rights, held without charge in the UK. Jesus. We know that the U.S. spied on Assange's conversations with his lawyers when he was inside the Ecuadorian embassy, stole his electronic devices, and collected medical and legal records. We know this because in 2020, I sat in court with Fidel Narvaez, the former consul to the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and we listened to the submissions of two protected witnesses who confirmed that they had spied on Assange. They worked for a company called UC Global because the security company they worked for, again, wow, UC Global, I just said that, had been contracted by the CIA to do so. Also by Sheldon Adelson. It may not have been the CIA. We think it was the CIA. We're pretty sure it was CIA. If not, it might have been Adelson, Mossad. There's a lot of questions as to who actually hired them. But yes, they're eventually tied back to the CIA. They also discussed plans to potentially kidnap and poison Julian Assange and to harvest DNA from his baby, or at least from his baby's diaper. To spy on someone.
Why?
Well, to confirm that he actually... No, they wanted to confirm that he had actually fathered those children. And according to the DNA records, he had. So to spy on someone's privileged conversations with their lawyers, to use tainted evidence in court is scandalous beyond words, and to quote it in Richie's vernacular, and violates the fundamentals of due process in any jurisdiction. We need, you know what we need? We need Pete and Baz to do this one. Any judge would have thrown this case out from day one. Well, any judge that actually didn't have to listen to their bosses who are part of the intelligence apparatus that all know that this is all trumped up and revenge. We also know that Assange will not get a fair trial in America because the jury will be selected from a pool of people who work for the CIA, NSA, or have friends working and family who work in the intelligence community. These are the very same people whose crimes Julian Assange exposed. Sure, the court in Virginia that issued the charges would hold this trial is used specifically for this reason, because the jury is biased and the government knows it can't lose. It's already 100% guaranteed that he will get convicted and go to ADX Florence Supermax. I mentioned that earlier. Again, like I said, this is a thorough, comprehensive, hell, explain it to me like I'm five kind of story here. Additionally, and anyone would turn around and say, and how are they still holding this guy? Well, because nobody's stopping him. Additionally, the U.S. could use secret evidence against Julian Assange that he wouldn't even be allowed to view due to it being classified during the court hearing. Gotta be shitting me. Article 7 protects one from being published retroactively. The case against Julian Assange is unprecedented. No publisher in America has ever been prosecuted, let alone convicted, for publishing classified documents. This case criminalizes journalism and therefore also violates Article 10, which guarantees freedom of expression. they're not doing so great with violating articles here. So Assange's lawyers went over the ECHR repeatedly because it's incorporated again into British law, meaning that the court is obliged to follow it. But they're not anyway. Not only that, but this was their way of hinting to the judges that if you don't give us permission to appeal, we will go to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, and that court will look upon your decision unfavorably. Do you want to be overturned? Because you're going to be. So, Assange's lawyer, Mark Summers, QC Mark Summers, argued very clearly that the Strasbourg court will see that A, these war crimes were real, B, they were happening on the ground at the time, and C, by publishing these documents, Assange altered the United States' behavior. The helicopter massacres, like in the Collateral Murder video, stopped, and the Iraq War came to an end. Literally. Didn't the guy say that if wars could be started by lies, then peace could be started by the truth? Yes, I do believe that was Julian Assange's quote. Assange's team put together a very compelling defense during this week's hearing. As they went back to the 2021 ruling, we heard many of the same arguments presented at the Old Bailey in 2020. And that is a good thing, because they're crucial points that cut to the core of the issue. Journalism is not a crime. The crimes committed by the United States are far greater than any alleged harm to informants. And the public has a fundamental right to know. That's right, bad cookies. WikiLeaks has never had to write a retraction. Washington Post wrote 4 of them just last week. It was refreshing to see the High Court Justices Johnson and Sharp actually express interest in what was being said and asking pertinent questions, as opposed to the previous judges thus far who were either silent, indifferent, or hostile to Assange. These are the interjections of the High Court Justices that stuck out most to him last week. Again, these are the thoughts and words of Richard Medhurst, journalist who was in the courtroom inside the Royal Courts of Justice in London last month for the appeal hearings. Justice Johnson said that, quote, if a journalist in this country was aware of significant crimes by a government intelligence agency and asked an employee there for information, would this be a prosecutable offense? Matt Kennard certainly was interested in that question, publisher for Declassified UK, as was Mark Curtis. Justice Johnson also asked that once someone is in U.S. jurisdiction, is there anything preventing the U.S. from piling on new charges and handing down a death penalty? The government lawyer replies that there is essentially nothing to stop the U.S. from doing this. Again, as Halo Benson pointed out earlier tonight, confirming our worst fear that he could be killed once in America. Justice Johnson also asked Dobbin if there's any evidence to support the idea that foreign nationals are given equal rights or treatment to U.S. citizens, and she says no. Once again, the prosecution openly confirms that he will be treated unfairly, that he'll get hit with all nasty parts of U.S. law, and he'll get none of the basic rights like free speech. Isn't that wonderful? Justice Sharp also asked QC Mark Summers, are the names mentioned in the WikiLeaks publications the people who participated in war crimes and torture? Yes, that is exactly what these people were engaged in and supporting. While all this plays out in court, Assange, of course, is slowly dying in prison. Same Judge Baritzer that blocked Assange's extradition because his precarious health condition presided over his bail hearing 2 days later on January 6, 2021. Anything else happened that day? I don't remember.
Yep.
Richard also attended that hearing. Yeah, but something else in the United States happened on that day, too. I was live streaming that afternoon. The judge obviously appreciated that his health was bad enough to bar extradition, yet she refused to let him out on bail despite the strong guarantees put forward and the risk that his health would worsen in prison, which it did. Now, remember why he was put in prison in the first place was, again, I believe, for a bail violation. So That is their justification for not issuing bail. A few months later, during a hearing in October 2021, Richard could barely recognize Julian, and that's the last time we saw him. We then learned from his wife Stella that he'd suffered a mini stroke during the hearing. Julian was put in Belmarsh prison on purpose by the security state. Belmarsh is, of course, known as Britain's Guantanamo Bay, the worst prison in England and notorious for housing violent criminals and terrorists. It is no place for journalists convicted of bail infractions or held on remand pending extradition. There's simply no reason for him to be in prison, let alone a Category A maximum security prison locked up 23 hours a day. By the way, with all communications to the outside world removed. It's important to note that before being taken to Belmarsh, Assange was forced to go to the Ecuadorian embassy in London and seek political asylum. He stayed in what is a tiny apartment for 7 years out of fear that the United States would try to grab him and take him to America the moment he set foot outside, and unfortunately, he was right. The motherfuckers are paranoid because the motherfuckers are right.
Mm-hmm.
Because of his prolonged persecution, his health has gradually declined. He's in poor physical and mental shape and has been deprived of a normal family life. The times I saw him in court, he looked very unwell. Again, quoting Richard Medhurst, journalist who wrote this article. The United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention ruled that this confinement amounts to arbitrary detention. Go figure. Many UN experts, doctors, lawyers, and NGOs all agree that Assange's human rights have been violated, and the conditions he was put in, both inside the embassy and then in Belmarsh, amount to torture. And the U.S. is fucking thrilled. The aim of the United States is to kill Julian Assange, either in America or slowly in an English prison, making him jump from one court to the next. The process is the punishment. And that, again, is a Sydney Morning Herald article from 2012, where he predicts that this is what they're going to do to him. Why? Because he exposed the brutality of the U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as if we didn't know. He exposed their kidnapping, their rendition and torture programs, their abuse of Guantanamo Bay prisoners, and the strong arming of their own allies to protect CIA torturers. Unfortunately, this is how the U.S. and Britain treat journalists. The corporate outlets, corporate-owned and mainstream media, that I hate to say that term, such as the New York Times, The Guardian, Le Monde, and Der Spiegel, who profited immensely from working with media partners with WikiLeaks and publishing Assange's explosive materials, could have launched dozens of campaigns and public appeals by now to secure his freedom, but have done fuck all nothing. This entire case is so damning to the political and media establishment that it's being conducted like a secret trial in a kangaroo court. Because if it came out, the public would never stand for it. Again, Richie has attended all the hearings in this case and has seen how unnecessarily difficult they make it for journalists to get access and for NGOs and politicians to observe the case. The proceedings have been plagued since the start with technical difficulties, making it impossible for people to hear or see anything if they're attending remotely or just next door in an overflow room. By the way, I want to make note. Kathy Vogan sent me a message, and God, what a privilege it is to have Kathy Vogan actually correct the record in your DMs. I love you, Kathy. Thank you. But it was Mohammed El-Mazi that could not, that has a problem with his hand and could not write. I said last week that it was Stefania Marizzi that reported that they didn't give them a place to write, but it was actually it was Mohammed El-Mazi who was reporting for the dissenter.
I at least knew it wasn't Stefania.
And then they removed his credentials for day 2 completely and blocked him from being able to enter the building, which is fucked up.
Yeah, and put in a mainstream asshole instead.
Yep. So
yeah.
Richie says he cannot say how the High Court will rule, but if Assange is not afforded permission to appeal, his lawyers can temporarily block the U.S. from putting him on a plane with a Rule 39 order, then take his case to the European Court of Human Rights. That's assuming they don't just throw him on a plane anyway, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
This again, of course, however, can take years to pan out. All the while, Assange's life hangs in the balance as the UK keeps him locked up in a maximum security prison at the behest of the CIA and the U.S. government. Julian is the most famous political...
sit out here and wait a long periodically time.
Right? Julian Assange is the most famous political prisoner in the world, but time is running out. This case is without question the biggest attack on free speech and journalism. Richard is chronicling these events as a witness to warn current and future generations that if we do nothing, journalism will die. And he is being censored and deplatformed and not deplatformed, but demonetized on YouTube. He's had his PayPal screwed with. He's had his Cash App screwed with. Support him. He's on Rumble, which I believe then dumps his money into PayPal. So I don't know how you do that there. He's on Rockfin. You can support him there. You can get him crypto. He has a GoFundMe as well. Amazingly enough, they haven't screwed with him over there. But he's one of my faves, and he's, you know, Indie Media Award honoree. Again, support independent media, support indie. Thank you. Support INN. We added a couple of names because last week we got a couple of Ko-fis and donations. That actually should say Sean Miller. I mistyped that there. And Sean Miller was already on the list before, but thank you again, Sean, for your generous donation the other night. Colin Care Bear, of course. I noticed Care Bear's given a lot, but he was never on the list. You know what? Screw it. INN personnel, if you donate, you'll get the list too. So thank you, and I love you. I love you, Care Bear. So that's that. Chat. We got everybody. That's not Chat GPT. That's Chat INN. Ooh, let's do that. Chat INN. So, oh, cookies. Don't say that. They'll put them in the same cell that Epstein died in. Ugh. And yes, if he comes here, it's very likely that they will charge him for Vault 7 and likely put death penalty charges on him. David Denuno, welcome. I know you've been hanging out over at Angel Streams. Appreciate you showing up here and checking this out. Rick Solis, welcome. Fams, long time. We've got one more story, and it's going to be a fun one. And I don't know how many of you folks and wonderful people and friends and brothers and sisters, as our friend Oz loves to say, are familiar with who Ian Carroll and the Cancel This Clothing Company are.
I love Oz.
I love Oz too. Oz is a good dude. Oz is the best. Oz is also an Indie Media Award honoree. I got it. Yes, thank you.
No, you don't.
Yes,
That's
I did.
my job.
Oh, sorry. I gotta put up some Adam Ayers. Adam Ayers is here, and Adam Ayers actually tipped. Woohoo! Okay, serious question. We basically have no rights anymore, but we can save a guy with cancer in Texas through crowdfunding, but can't save Julian Assange. They're using him as our carrot. No argument there. Who the fuck gets a fair trial in America? Nobody, of course. The sheer fact that I've had to replace my Free Assange door flag 3 times is a testament to how numb the world is. World the numb is too.
Who takes that? Why would you take that?
Rockfin.com/INN, everybody. Rockfin.com/INN is where Anna's hanging out. Thank you, and we love you for being over there. Richie fan here too. Yep, we are all Richie fans, and I think that's one of the first places I saw you, Anna Mayers, was there, and we'll say it. Yep, in Graham Elwood chats too. We actually we go that OG was from all the way back.
Gross.
Yeah, kind of gross, but I also Wichigo, and we've got Ghost Art over there on the Rumblaze, so we are over on rumble.com/c/Indie News Network, and over on Rumble we've got Ghost Art saying that more than 7,000 people, including children, are missing and remain Thank you, trapped under the rubble across Gaza. And sorry about that. We've of course got Wichigo saying free Julian Assange, and yes, free Julian Assange by all means.
Say to me, who fucking said this shit in the fucking chat? What fucking idiot said something stupid in the chat?
Shit. The ghost of Graham Elwood. All right. Ian Carroll. Has anyone watched this guy's videos? He's great. I love him. Sometimes he's a little weird. Sometimes he doesn't get it all right. He's very snarky. He asks a lot of questions, and well, this one I found really interesting, and I saw this about 5 weeks ago. It's already disappeared off of TikTok. It likely will disappear off of Instagram too. Never seen this dude. Okay, so this guy, he does TikTok style videos, and he's on TikTok, and he's got over 1 million videos watched on TikTok. He's got about 6 TikTok accounts because he keeps getting videos and accounts taken down. But he, as you can see here, winner. As you see here, he found an all-female CIA shell company. Now I'm gonna stop this a couple of times while we're watching this, because
girls get it done.
Yeah, girl bosses. Here we go. Ready?
To accidentally find a whole bunch of hidden CIA front companies, actually uncovered a girl squad of all female CIA associates and operatives that are running a bunch of businesses in plain sight. This one is super fun, and I am pretty confident it's going to mysteriously disappear off of TikTok real quick. So let's just be clear. This is just for entertainment purposes only. We're just having a little doodle through the Google. So I'll walk you through my research process, and we'll have a little mystery game while we're at it. See, I was researching the board of directors of one of the most well-known companies in the whole stock market. You would all know what company it is. I'll tell you at the end. See if you can guess right. And I was just laying out what other boards and companies they serve with, and I noticed this woman who worked for the CIA for more than 20 years in the Office of the President, the Department of the Treasury. Her name is S. Leslie Ireland.
Huh. President, Treasurer, on corporate boards? Huh. How about that?
This is her bio on this company's website. She worked for the CIA from 1985 until 2005, it looks like. But as I was snooping into her, I noticed that there are some things she's involved with that aren't mentioned on that other more prominent website talking about her board position. When I looked her up on Market Screener, it turns out that she's also a director and board member of Night Swan Acquisition Corporation, which strangely, when I went to their website, it was not secure and I couldn't get to it, which only got weirder when I found their IPO proposal on the SEC's website that describes what their business is and why they're going to go public. Sorry, these documents are really small text. I'll read it to you. So Night Swan is innovation in cyber, cloud, and mission intelligence, a field focused on the collection, analysis, and delivery of foreign intelligence and counterintelligence information for the purposes of improving decision making. So this is a cybersecurity and national intelligence company whose website is apparently not secure and can't be accessed. But as I read on, I started to realize what I had just found. Meet the Girl Squad. Brandy, Teresa, Anne, Marilyn, Leslie, Dawn, Laura. The CEO, Ms. Daly, is the founder and CEO of C2S Consulting Group. I looked them up, and their site also couldn't be reached, so I dug a little deeper, and it turns out that they were acquired or merged with SMX Hollywood. So I went and found SMX's website, and I found their board of directors. Figured I'd see who they are, clicked on the chair of their board, and it took me just to Joe's LinkedIn profile, which doesn't tell me anything.
Dude, he goes such good rabbit holes. Like, okay, this one from this, and this one serves on this with this, and the president of this. So how's she getting picked, right? So you're starting to ask all kinds of questions.
Except that he went to the Wharton School, which, if you know, you know, and something about Oceanside Partners. So, quick side quest into Oceanside Partners, who is led by Joe Benavides. And in his bio, they specify that Joe holds a top secret government security clearance. Weird. It's an interesting thing to say on an investment company's website. But it turns out the other co-founder, Ted Coons, also holds a top secret government clearance and also went to the Wharton School. Oh wait, and the other co-founder, Jeff Kelly, also holds a top secret government clearance. So I think we can all make some guesses about what Ocean Sound Partners is doing with their money. But anyways, side quest. Back to Night Swan, founded by Brandy Daly. Now let's meet the rest of their team. Teresa. Her career has been in tech her whole life, Microsoft and Amazon Web Services. Specifically, she oversaw the deal for Amazon to provide cloud services to the CIA.
That's not a little weird that she serves on a corporate.
Seems perfectly normal. I don't know what you mean.
C2S Consulting. Isn't that the ones who did the Boeing job? Maybe. Very maybe.
Possibly.
Like, this is crazy.
She's also on the board of this Commure company that's all about big data in healthcare and joining together many data sets to make healthcare all sketchy. I mean, I'm sure for the greater good, obviously. Next we'll meet Anne, who spent her whole career working at IBM and they're developing their multi-billion-dollar business with the federal government clients in the United States. Not sure exactly which federal branches she was working with at IBM. Think you can make some guesses about who needed IBM's help the most? Next on the list was Leslie, who we already met. She started this whole hubbubaloo. She's the card-carrying CIA agent of the bunch. In the Night Swan SEC documents, it says she joined the Treasury after 25 years at the CIA. She spent more than 31 years in the intelligence community, highlighted in red there. Then in orange here, from 2008 to 2010, Miss Ireland served as the daily intelligence briefer for President Obama. Next up.
Okay. Literally White House access. Like, daily intelligence briefing, CIA, delivered the PDB. No problem.
Dawn, also a card-carrying member of the CIA. She is the former deputy director of CIA for Science and Technology, in charge of orchestrating multi-billion-dollar programs focusing on national security objectives by coordinating all the different companies and operations and programs and policies. Prior to the CIA, she was the deputy director of national intelligence for acquisitions, technology, and facilities. She worked for nearly 10 years at the Defense Information Securities Systems Agency, rather. But then I was snooping on this other important government commission about national security that she's on right here. That bio says that she's also a member of the corporate board of the NSA. Dawn.
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah, this is a revolving tech door. This is what I was talking about the other day with TikTok also being owned by CIA top officials and whatever, as pointed out in Alan McLeod's article, TikTok Trojan Horse.
From a year ago, from literally last April.
Dawn has had a busy life. But in the end, what's really confusing here is that it seems like Night Swan, which was meant to be like an acquisitions private equity company that would like acquire tech companies and intelligence companies and like basically bring them into the fold of the intelligence community and then make a bunch of money with it. It seems like they wanted to make their company public in like the year 2020-ish. And then they did. And that's where we got that SEC document. And then they never acquired anyone as far as I can tell. And then they're spinning their company down is what it looks like in 2023. Like, did they fail? Is the girl squad breaking up? Or are they just evolving? That's all on the next episode of Lady Spies. I'm just playing. This is just a fun rabbit hole, and I hope it illustrates how the intelligence community works. I mean, if you think about it, the mandate of the CIA from its founding at the end of World War II is to control the world. Their mandate is to get ahead of threats around the globe and to create a global environment that is secure for American interests. They do this through finance, they do this through information, they do this through subterfuge and sabotage and surveillance. But you don't stop global threats by responding once the threats happen. They learned early on that that's not how you do it. You get ahead of threats by controlling the marketplaces, by controlling the information spaces, by controlling things. And you do that mostly through companies and partnerships and operatives, and a lot of it is through people that aren't actually CIA operatives. Because from the very beginning, the whole point of the CIA has been plausible deniability. A lot of their operations need to not trace back to the government if they are found out. That is...
What?
I cannot confirm or deny.
That's correct.
The oldest trick in the books. Like all the way back to Vietnam and even Korea. But every now and then, you find someone who actually was an operative of the CIA, and you can follow the trail and find other businesses that look like they're involved in the intelligence community in other ways. And if you find the people that certain people in the intelligence community are partnering with, you'll find other people that are in the intelligence community that are other partnerships. It's just a big spider web. So now, back to our original inquiry. Have you guessed what company Ireland is sitting on the board of? What company do you think this is a board of?
Wait, anyone? All right, I'm gonna let chat throw in their guesses. I think you know. I think I told you already. Anyone?
I wouldn't remember.
Anyone want to venture in? Now look at the assholes that are also on this board. You got this one from McKinsey and CFR. You got this one from Soros Fund Management. You got Bankers Trust, Stanford, NYU Stern, Nike. You've got your CIA hit squad lady. You got someone who sits on Intel's board, so it can't be Intel, and it can't be GE or General Atlantic or the Boston Consulting Group. That's BCG right there. Mastermind Hours guessing Sarah Lee. Kill your egregores. No, it's a publicly traded company. That's the board of a publicly traded company. Bad Cookies is getting closer. Bank of America. Himbo's got it. The Young Turks. Ladies Facebook, no. Hooters, maybe, but not in this case. Rick Solis. Let me reveal.
Directors of Final Answers. That is the board of Citigroup. See, I spent all day yesterday and all day today analyzing the board of directors of all 4 of the biggest banks in America. And they each have their own quirks and their own kind of styles and themes. But Citibank's is by far the most sinister, the most revolving door from government to banking, the most people that worked at the CIA, that worked at the regulators. This Ireland lady was just one of the people on this list that seemed to have ties to the intelligence community. The one right below her is another good candidate, as is this one down here. But that's all we have time for today. Hope you had as much fun with that as I did. And just an afterthought here. If this video gets taken down from TikTok, as it probably will,
which it did,
what does that say about the world and about TikTok and about the companies that control TikTok, namely Oracle, and about what we are and aren't allowed to talk about? And isn't it weird that we're not allowed to talk about the agency that's tasked with defending us from terror around the world? Like, isn't it weird that the one government agency that is their one mandate is to protect American citizens is the one agency that we're not supposed to talk about? Like, even when it's all publicly available information about public companies that you can just find on Google?
Like he just
That's kind of weird to take off the internet. I mean, I'm just saying. You want to know what it's like to accidentally find a whole bunch of
entertainment purposes only, folks.
Sure.
Well, that was fun.
A new world order.
Yeah. If we can make China sell TikTok, can we make Israel sell its congressman? Yeah. I wish, but that would allow us to clean house. Yeah. So damn corrupt. Absolutely. Cookies. Citigroup is Obama Lords. That is 100%. He didn't make that connection, which is interesting. But yes, Bad Cookies got it. David was close with Chase. KYE with BlackRock and Raytheon. Cookies with the Wells. We're getting close, but yes, it was Citi, and that is damn. So yeah, cancel this clothing company on Instagram. He's also on Twitter at Cancel Clothing Co. I believe is his handle. I'll have all that in the descriptions, but we're getting close to the end here so that we can get to boats. So we're going to have a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back with a new stream, and Reef's going to drop that in the chat right now. I actually have it here too. I have all those links in my show doc. You got the INN link? Or here, I got it. Or you just dropped it. Okay, good. Thank you, folks. I'm going to stream nude from now on. No, come on, pants. This is a pants
friendly stream. So you know what? Let me drop the Rumble link on the Rumbles for the Rumble fam, and I'll drop the Rockfin link.
You were supposed to wear pants? Shit.
Yeah. Reef's not getting up.
I didn't get that memo.
Reef's not getting up.
Nope.
Yes, adult children of alcoholics and mayors. Nobody was over on my Rockfin. Okay. Well, we'll see you all over at Boats. Thank you for tonight. This was a lot of fun and a little heartbreaking and a little difficult, but I appreciate everyone being here and sticking with us through some tough stories. Free Julian Assange, as it says there. And then I will also, of course, before we go out, say support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you, fam.
Love you, fam. Keep listening to what Little Boats had to tell you.
I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I